People will always wear the mask of being agreeable, and even the most psychotic boss will always know how to be somewhat charming and present themselves. But you look at how they treat other people when you're not observing them behind closed doors, and that's when some of their ugly behavior will come out.
We live in a universe of limitless dimensions, and we're discovering all these weird things about the universe. Our minds, our consciousness have immense powers, other powers, but they don't have it. It's insane to think about these things, but to live in these small little rabbit holes, to me, is really, really depressing. And I feel like a lot of people are literally going insane right now because of the restriction, the limited nature of their consciousness.
Like we have some degree of ability to influence other people, that we can control our own career and learn more and develop greater skills and have more kind of power and influence in our life. The feeling that I cannot have any power or influence over my children, my spouse, my colleagues, my boss, my career in general is deeply, deeply unsettling for the human animal and causes all kinds of attempts at what I call negative power, passive aggression, setting yourself up as a victim to kind of leverage power in a negative way. And so the problem is that we live in a world where this desire for some kind of power butts up against kind of codes of behavior that have gotten stricter and stricter and stricter, particularly in the 21st century, about what is acceptable, about what is politically correct. So we're supposed to appear to be these paragons of virtue, these paragons of fairness and democracy, etc. At the same time, we're all trying to angle for different degrees of power in our work, in our relationships, etc. And so because of that dynamic, we have to be extremely careful in this world. And I compare it to the courts, where all of the courtiers, if they're too overt in their power moves, the king will disapprove of them and will not banish them, but they'll be kind of excluded to the corner of the palace. And so the game was to be sort of indirect, to be polite and ingratiating. And if you had an enemy, to know how to kind of very quietly get rid of them. I didn't see any kind of honesty about this dynamic in the human world, and it really kind of irritated me. All the self-help books were sort of describing a world that I never saw existed. You know, I saw people being very political, having egos and having problems with their egos. So law number one is never outshine the master. If you try too hard to impress your boss or the person above you, you're liable to make them feel insecure. You're going to trip on their ego and something bad will happen to you, right? And so this seemed like the fact that people have egos and operate with egos and you have to be careful with them seems very clear to me. People are a little more complex than that. I do have other sides to myself. I do have a shadow side that can be very aggressive and I'm very competitive. I think on the surface, I have that kind of agreeable personality for various reasons, but yes. People are kind of perplexed. Well, I have this dark side and I explain a lot of where it comes from and how a lot of your aggressive impulses, like the room of 2-year-olds that you were talking about, you have that as well. I'm talking to the people that are my readers. You have that aggressiveness when you were young and it got socialized out of you and then it kind of got repressed and it's like a lost self that lives inside of you and is screaming to come out. How do you integrate it? And so the main thing is you have to be aware that you have this shadow side. You can't run away from it. You have to acknowledge that it exists. That's kind of where a lot of young people are, they enter the world where they've been coddled, where they think that there are no winners, that everyone is, it's just win-win situations. And that's where they get really shocked by the realities of the world. So all this coddling and this idea that there doesn't have to be a winner. We don't have to get prizes for first place. Everybody should get a prize. All you're doing is setting your children up for massive shocks when they enter the world and they see that it's not like that. Well, a lot of my books, I've tried to remove the kind of taboo or the negative associations we have with the word like power or with the word ambition. I try and say ambition is a good thing. It means that you believe in yourself, you have some self-love, and you believe you're worth something, and you want to go out and achieve and create something worthwhile for other people. So ambition is a positive thing. But so many people are just kind of embarrassed about being a human being, embarrassed about our primate nature, embarrassed about our own aggressive impulse. I know that I personally have, as I said, I definitely have a shadow side. I'm very aggressive and extremely competitive, and I have a lot of anger. So a lot of those experiences in my youth made me very angry. But the way I kind of integrated my shadow, I'm not saying this is a model, but the way I integrated it was through my books. That anger kind of seeps through the material that I write, and I find I can only write when I have that kind of anger. But I don't rant, I don't yell and kind of put people down. I kind of channel it into something productive and something creative. You know, some of that anger, you know, I think Jung talks about this, is that dark side contains a lot of energy. It contains a lot of power. Those 2-year-olds that are kicking and screaming, that's all this kind of force behind it. And when you sort of are ashamed of it and you push that down, you're kind of getting rid of an incredible well of energy that you can use for your creativity, for your work. You can take that energy, like you say, and create discipline out of it, do something creative out of it, support some cause that you really believe in, you know. So that shadow side, when you deny it, only negative things will happen. And it is extremely important for people to first recognize it in themselves, you know, and it's very hard for a lot of people to do that. People will always wear the mask of being agreeable and friendly. Even the most psychotic boss will always know how to be somewhat charming and present themselves. But you look at how they treat other people when you're not observing them behind closed doors, and that's when some of their ugly behavior will come out. So a lot of it was observing how other people were mistreated. You know, in some industries, I have to say, some industries are a lot worse than others. So when you're working at that factory job that you're mentioning, people will tend to be kind of united around a single purpose. There won't be much politicking going on.
We live within certain conventions in our lives, but we're not aware of it. So if you think, for example, of people in the 17th century, and Louis XIV, they're wearing powdered wigs, they wear these clothes, he would wear high heels, they dressed differently, they spoke differently, everything was formal. We could see, and through the lens of 300 years ago, how conventional their world was and how weird it was. It's so different. We can't see that in our own present time. We can't realize that we're as conventional as Louis XIV in his time. It's just different conventions. We look differently, but it's still everybody. We're an animal that's constantly imitating other people. We're part of a zeitgeist. We're part of a cultural moment that we can't get out of. And in any kind of culture, any kind of moment, there's a level of restriction. This is how you're supposed to behave. Now it's all social media. This is how you're supposed to present yourself. This is how you're supposed to think. And it creates patterns. And we all follow these patterns and we're not conscious of it. But it starts to feel constricted. It starts to feel like, is this all there is to my life? And you don't realize it, but you're feeling bored. You're feeling restless. You're feeling like there's got to be something else. We live in a universe of limitless dimensions, and we're discovering all these weird things about the universe. Our minds, our consciousness have immense powers that other animals have other powers, but they don't have it. It's insane to think about these things, but to live in these small little rabbit holes on the internet or on social media, to me is really, really depressing. And I feel like a lot of people are literally going insane right now because of the restriction, the limited nature of their consciousness. And so the sublime, that limited nature, is a circle. That circle can be a little bit larger or it can be small, but it's always a limit factor. The sublime is anything outside of that limit. Things that you don't normally think about, patterns of behavior that you normally wouldn't do, emotions that you don't normally feel. When you go outside that circle, it creates this physical. The sublime is a physical sensation before it's a mental sensation. You have a chill, you have goosebumps, your heart beats faster, your eyes dilate, you almost feel like you want to cry. Something kind of beautiful that's happening, but you don't have the words for it. It creates this physical sensation. And then your mind starts opening up. It's an opening up process to the vastness, to the actual powers of human consciousness and how limitless it is and how absolutely beautiful the world can be. You're going to die. Everybody's going to die. No one gets out of here alive, as Jim Morrison said. So we're all facing the same thing. And that moment of death wakens you up to like, whoa, I haven't been seeing these things. I haven't been seeing the world through this lens. Before we even invented language, humans became conscious as we know it now, maybe 30, 40, 50,000 years ago. It's not like a moment. You know, of course, it was like an evolution. But at a certain point, we start becoming conscious. And animals have their own consciousness, but an animal doesn't look up at the sky and go, wow, look at that. What's going on? The stars, how amazing. As far as I know, that's not completely true. We do know chimpanzees have a degree of awe, but it's not the same thing as a human. So these ancestors, they're looking around, they look at the sky, whoa. They're looking at all the things around in the world. They're looking at these enormous animals that are prowling about. They're going, who created this? How did this happen? They see plants constantly coming out of the ground. Things that we take for granted, consciousness erupts, right? And so they're so insanely inspired by that they create all of these rituals. They create art. They create cave paintings. They create dances. They create rituals. And yet they lived in a world where survival was incredibly harsh, a lot harsher than anything we've ever had to deal with. But the need to feel that there's something more than just eating and killing animals and sitting around a fire is deeply embedded in human nature because of the nature of our consciousness, which is limitless. So to only be concerned with your daily sustenance is important. For me, when I first wanted to write the book, I was going to have all of these adventures. I was going to go to the Amazon. I was going to go swim with dolphins. I was going to do all this, and I was going to have splum and write about it. And when it came time to writing the book, I could barely walk out the front door. I was trapped in my office. And I had to decide that the sublime is in everything around me, just looking out the window, just looking at my cats in the house, right? Just looking at the world as it is was insane. You don't need money to do that. You could be flipping burgers at McDonald's and you can still look at people's faces and go, how strange it is. How strange it is I'm working at this job. How weird it is to be alive. You can still walk outside. The sky is still above you. People don't realize how odd it is to even have a sun, a star, where it's exactly at the right distance so that life could evolve. You don't have to have money. You don't have to have security to be able to appreciate all of those things. In fact, opening yourself up to that may make it easier to live your life, to make more money, to be more creative, to be more open to things, right? We're physical creatures. We have consciousness and a mind, but we also have a body. And we're living so closed and constricted that when you open yourself up to these things, and so each of the chapters is a different aspect of it. The one was love. There's another one having to do with animals, what I call the interspecies sublime and how we connect to animal consciousness. Another one's about the brain. Another one's about our childhood, on and on and on. When you connect to these different kind of facets, it kind of opens you up mentally, physically. It makes your mind spin and makes you more creative. But if you see yourself as only this kind of creature that needs to have a job, that needs to get this amount of money, then that mind of yours just kind of closes into that's who you are, but you're greater than that. And for thousands of years, we've been religious people. We had religious beliefs, right? That were very powerful, that anchored us. Now they're gone for whatever reason. But the poorest people on the planet were the ones who were the most religious of all. Why? Because they needed it. And that doesn't change. So the hierarchy of needs this is a need of yours. And if you deny it, what you're going to have is you're going to have symptoms. You're going to have loneliness. You're going to have boredom. You're going to feel lonely. You're going to feel like you have no purpose in life. And, even if you're poor, this is going to affect you. You're going to have these symptoms. So this is a need of yours. It used to be supplied by religion. If you go to a country like Mexico or third world countries where people are dirt poor, they're often the most spiritual of all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the slaves in America, they were incredibly religious, incredibly spiritual. Why? It wasn't putting food on their table, but they needed it. It was part of the law that I'm talking about.